Hey, Wild Monkeys, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Cabling. So you thought about starting your own low-voltage business. This is the show for you.
Welcome to Let's Talk Cabling, the award-winning podcast where knowledge is power and the low-voltage industry connects. Hosted by Chuck Bowser, RCDD, we're here to empower installers, designers, and industry pros with the tips, stories, and best practices you need to stay ahead. From copper to fiber, standards to innovation, this is the show that keeps you plugged into success. So grab your tools, turn up the volume, and let's talk cabling. Let's Talk Cabling, your source for low voltage expertise and connection.
Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by installers, technicians, project managers, estimators, IT personnel, even customers. We're connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching this show on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content is being produced? If you're listening to us on one of the audio podcast platforms, would you mind leaving us a 5-star rating? Those simple little steps helps us take on the algorithm so we can educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of people in the ICT industry. Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are you doing? You know you get to ask your favorite RCDD questions on installation, certification, design, estimation, project management, even career path questions. But I can hear you now. Chuck, I'm driving my truck on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. I don't want to get into a direction. I record them, and they're available afterwards without you having to get into an accent. And finally, while this show is free and will always remain free, would you click on that QR code right there? You can buy me a cup of coffee. You can schedule a 15-minute one-on-one call with me, after hours, of course. You can even buy Let's Talk Cabling t-shirts. Hey, this is Editing Chuck. Last week was part 1. This week, we continue the conversation with part 2 and cover some really important information if you're thinking about starting your own low-voltage business. So let's tune back in to where we left off last week. So let's talk about tools and equipment, right? We're guys. We like buying tools, especially if they're in Milwaukee red or Klein orange or DeWalt yellow. I love everybody pick their own
Red.
Red. I knew that was going to happen. I've got a mob box sitting here at my feet somewhere doing something. I carry my AV stuff in it, but so we're going to go out and buy tools, and we'll go out and buy punch tools and snips and hand tools. But when you start getting to the higher level things like certifiers, fusion splicers, OTDRs, how do you decide when is the right time to buy that? Because you're starting off, you likely don't have $10,000 to $26,000 or drop for a certifier. How do you approach that problem? Start off with you.
I mean, for me, the first time I got a job that required having one was when I started thinking about it. I think I rented certifiers for 2 or 3 jobs, and I finally realized this is just silly. If I'm going to do it for these, I'm going to be doing it for all of them. And the way that we work, where we essentially travel around the country doing cabling, for me, it's an insurance policy. Like if I leave the site, everything's certified, I can say, if the client calls me back in a couple months, hey, these drops are no longer working properly. I'm like, well, they weren't when we left. We'll come back and troubleshoot them. But, something's happened post-install that's caused the issue. That peace of mind alone made a purchase like that pretty easy to pull off. I mean, it's just, I had to do it.
Mr. Ryan, how about you?
With the same with certifying, we travel all over. We have guys stationed all over. My biggest thing is, even if the customer states that they don't want certification or it's not necessary, we do it no matter what. Yes. It is that insurance policy. I've had customers call and say, hey, this jack hasn't worked since the day you installed it. Well, is it something on your end? Because we got the certification report. We know it's 70 feet. We know it's 290 feet, whatever. And here it's working. And here, to some of those customers that we've done nationwide work, and we know we have repetitive issues, we even go as far as plugging a laptop in and making sure it is fully live to plug in and get a report there as well sometimes. The other, with certifiers, I think we bought ours the second or third one after really needing it. Our first one we rented, it was like 200 and something drop job, and we ended up needing it for 3 weeks, and it just
cost us arm and like.
Yeah. Because last time I priced a certifier, it was $1,200 a week.
Yeah, I think this one was like 900 a week, and at that point I was like, 900 a week. I mean, if I could split that to $900 a month, even if I need to take a loan out at this point to buy a $20,000 certifier, I could. We didn't. Well, that's how I looked at it. It was, well, the first customer can pay for the first loan payment and then continue on.
Exactly. Mr. Jeff, how about you? How do you decide those big tools? Buy them right away, or could they wait?
I mean, for me, tools are a means to convenience. So you got to remember, I know it's cliche, but it is, time is money, and there are things that you certainly want that can kind of speed things up. Pierce, Ryan, and I, we all have probably entered the field of buying, certifiers and fiber tools and that kind of stuff. But I think to maybe the folks who are listening right now, they might have their primary vehicle might be like what they're actually using right now. And like for me, I can relate to that. When I started this, nights and weekends, I was using my daily driver, my pickup truck, to go from job to job. And then, taking the toolboxes in and out of the bed of a pickup truck, and not having certain things certain times, and then having to go to Home Depot. So like that to me is when I was like, you know what, getting a van makes a lot of sense right now. And then it goes back to like what we talked about 2 segments ago with like licensing and insurance and everything else. So it's like, okay, like I'm gonna buy a van because I'm gonna save probably an hour at the beginning of the day and the hour at the end of the day. Everything's gonna be in this van. I can start to build shelves and have it outfitted the way I want. But it's the hidden costs. It's the extra insurance. It's the you're maintaining a second vehicle, and so now we're at the point where we have a whole fleet of vehicles. So it has to make sense where you're having vehicles that is your growth model being supported by the amount of vehicles. But for me, I think when I think back to like certifiers and fiber tools and like some of the big ticket items in our industry, for me, they're bucket list items for me. Like there are things that every year I try to get one big investment tool for us. Put it this way, for me, it's not like Ryan or Pierce for like I've rented things. It's me turning things down once or twice because I don't have the tool I needed. And it's like, hey, this is the 3rd time I've been asked to do fiber work. Maybe, I've watched everybody do it. It's time to get my own, because the 4th time it happens, I can actually say, yeah, I have one of those. I can do that portion of the job. I don't have to sub that part out. So for me, it's just being mindful. And the same thing with the certifier is, before I had one, it was we only have a verifier. Is that good enough for you? Part of it, half the time, is like they don't we just need a PDF, So they don't even realize what they're asking for. It's when you get to that upper echelon of jobs where it's like, we need this certified, and they know what they're talking about. They know what they're asking for. When I crossed that bridge, it was like, okay, it's time to get one. I probably don't use the tools as much as Ryan and Pierce do, but I know that I have one. And when jobs come up, I know I'm ready for those jobs.
And one of the advantages of when you move to your van, right? Yes, it's saving you time, but you know what? A customer's willing to pay you more when they see you pull up in front of their office in a van that's logoed and professional, as opposed to, I don't like the term trunk slammer, because trunk slammer is somebody who does poor quality work, but a lot of people call themselves trunk slammers because they work out of the personal vehicles. And those aren't trunk slammers, right? It's all about quality. But if you pull up in a van that's logoed and professional, and you got shirts on that say, look, Better Days Technology or whatever company they work for, that goes back to Pierce's conversation. Charge as much as you can get for it. And they're willing to pay for more if you pull up in something that looks professional.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if this kind of falls on the same thread that you're talking about, but like, for the longest time, I worked out of my home office, and it was only, and then, recently in the last 3 years is when I actually got a storefront. And that I feel like elevated my professionalism. So like in addition to having the vans that were, parked outside my house for the longest time, it's like now we actually people are like, oh yeah, I know where your shop is. So it, that is like, I feel like that is what really took us to the next level, is not just the vans, not just the t-shirts, not just that, but like having this place on a main road that people drive by every day. Even if they don't need you, they are saying, "Oh yeah, that place on Gooding Ave. That's you got to go there." So that to me was like really the trifecta of like business growth.
You've got patch panels to label and a deadline creeping up. With Fox in a Box and Labicus Innovator, you can print labels for up to 40 1U patch panels in just 30 seconds, giving you back your most valuable resource, time. And it doesn't stop there. This system prints over 100 variations of labels, from cable wraps to fiber flag labels and plenum-tested tie-ons. One software, one printer, one ribbon. It integrates with Fluke Linkware Live and AEM testers, turning test data into print-ready labels fast. Trusted by installers worldwide since 1979 and rated 4.8 on Trustpilot. Silver Fox Labeling. It's about time. Visit silverfoxlabeling.com or call 1-833-848-8484.
Now, at some point when you have your own business and you start getting more and more business, you start to realize that there's only 24 hours in a day. There's only so much time that you can't do everything. At some point, you got to start thinking about subcontracting stuff out, or maybe even hiring somebody to, for the first time. So going around the room, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Pierce. What advice do you have for someone hiring an employee the first time, or maybe even doing subcontracting for the first time?
Ask a lot of questions. Don't assume that just because they talk a big game and they know, they sell themselves to you, that they're going to be that fit, if you would. I've been burned too many times by guys who they might be technically good, but they're not good with other people, or they're not good in front of the client, or, maybe they look on paper, but in reality, they're not that great. So one of the things I've learned to do is, one, find good people asking the right questions, and then two, cultivate those relationships to keep partnering with them going forward. I mean, the work I do these days still is nationwide, but I've got certain guys I go back to again and again and again because I know they're going to be okay, and I can trust them, do the job the right way.
Ryan, what about you?
About the same way. I definitely stress vetting everybody. If it's a 1099 or if it's an employee, I strongly recommend making a employee have a trial period with you. Stick them at your hip. Make them be your sidekick for whatever, 30, 60, 90 days, whatever. Watch them do things. Don't do the work. Make them do it, but watch them do it. Make sure they do it to what your standards are. If they don't, stop them, teach them. Don't do the work for them, but teach them.
Right.
At that point, that's my biggest thing. We've had plenty of candidates that come through, say, oh yeah, I can do the whole 9 yards. We put them out in the field because we're too busy and we didn't have time to train them. We go back and look at the work and we're like, oh crap. There goes another 30 hours to fix this or whatever. Right. So I strongly, I don't care how busy you are, make time to have them on site with you and train them or watch how they do it, so you make sure your quality of work is the same throughout.
Right. The when you mentioned that 30 hours, I'm sure that was just off the top of your head, but when you have to go back and redo something, if it costs you 30 hours, the true cost isn't 30 hours. Mm-hmm. It's 30 hours to pay the person to go back to redo it. It's 30 hours of lost revenue on a different job they should have been on, and also lost customer confidence in your abilities.
Correct.
And there's a lot of stuff that goes in with that. Mr. Jeff, how do you any advice for somebody looking to bring on a subcontractor or hiring somebody for the first time?
Yeah, I think unfortunately every person that works here I've probably known for at least 20 years personally. So for me, it's just been like this dream of mine, and I've brought these people along that I've known throughout the industry, or when I was an IT director, one of my best employees was someone who was an intern of mine at the school I was working at, and then I stayed in contact with, and So I think for me, that is what I kind of look to. I feel like trust is the most important tool that you have in our industry. We could teach someone how to crimp a cable, an end on a cable. We can teach people the right way to, run a cable through a plenum. You can't teach trust, just like in the NBA, you can't teach height. Like these are the things that I just feel like a person's character is the most valued tool that they can bring to better days technology. And if you don't have that, you don't last here. And that's a hard thing to it's hard to say, I don't trust this person, but like it's a domino effect. The customer is trusting us. I need to be able to trust the people implicitly that I'm sending to their place of business or their home. Because we do both. So that's like, and I always say about even myself, I'm 49% technician. I'm 51% a people person, first and foremost. And I know that a lot of our work comes because of the ability to communicate. Like you said earlier, that's my biggest strength, not being a technician. So it's getting the customer to feel comfortable trusting me, and then in return, an extension of that is knowing that the people under me are just as trustworthy.
Right. Another big hurdle for people who are starting their own low voltage businesses, they think about, they go out and do the job. They go pull the cable, terminate the cable, test the cable and stuff. They put in their 8, 10, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. But guess what? You're not done. You still gotta work on those proposals. You still gotta do those estimates. You still gotta do your invoicing. You still gotta do your taxes. Still gotta do marketing. There's all this other stuff. How do you balance field work with doing all that other stuff that you gotta do as a business owner? You first, Mr. Pierce.
I don't. I'll be honest.
There's honesty for you right there.
Yeah, I mean, so the last couple of years I've set aside a dedicated day, usually a Monday, in the office to do that kind of stuff. But I mean, here I am in a hotel right now. I'll be doing it when we finish this call. I'll be doing invoices tonight and some other paperwork. So, I mean, you just kind of have to figure out a system that works for you, and everybody's going to be different in that regard.
How about you, Ryan?
Same. I don't have it nailed down yet. I mean, we have people that help and do a lot of it, but at the end of the day, Rick and I have final say on things, so we still have to go back and review those things. And it could be 2:00 in the morning, and I'm like, oh, I can't sleep, so might as well pull out the laptop and do something. I know at least Jeff and I have talked, and it's been past midnight a couple times. So I know we're both burning the oil,
right,
trying to get things done. So I think it's pretty common in any business that owners are burning the oil late at night.
It doesn't shut off, right?
No.
Because I could be sitting at my wife and I, we went out to dinner Saturday night, and we're sitting there talking, and a thought crossed my mind. Okay, I'll put that away, and made a note on my phone and stuff. You ever stop thinking,
No. And it's a good thing that's a curse at the same time.
Yes.
Yes. Because like I said, I think it was midnight last night, and we're watching TV, and my wife falls asleep on the couch, and all of a sudden I think of something, I go grab my laptop, and I'm working till 3:00 in the morning. It was because something popped in my brain. I know there's a way to get to that point. I just don't think it will ever be in my books to get to that point, because I still like to be hands-on and still deal with the business and know everything about the business. I know there's owners and different companies out there that they're not as involved or whatnot, but I don't think that I'll ever get to that point.
What about you, Mr. Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, I left my comfortable desk job of 20-something years to go listen to Jamaican music and climb a ladder all day long. So, like, that to me, like that's ultimate freedom to me, is being able to, I did life backwards. Most people try to climb ladders at the beginning of their career and have a nice cush desk job after that. That's not how life's going for Jeff right now, and I'm totally okay with it. People always say, oh, you're the owner, you shouldn't be doing that. I don't care what you think.
There's a people who don't have businesses that say that.
I'm happy.
Right.
I'm happy, and even if they did have a business, like, it doesn't matter. I think back to when I was miserable working at this place, and now, like, I get to do what I want to do. So for me, like, that's it. But Ryan brought something up, and he's absolutely right. We have talked very late into the night. Ryan's gotten phone calls at 2 a.m. from customers. I've had the same thing. It's having that support system at home, I think, is really important. My wife was all in on me doing this because she knew this is what I needed to be happy. I was miserable when I had that desk job. And it was a great job. It was a great environment, but like, I wasn't realizing what I needed to be happy when my wife did. And she said, you need to go off on your own. You need to do this. I got your back. And like, I know that's going to mean that you are not going to be home some nights. You're going to go back to the office and do paperwork, or you're going to be doing this on Saturdays. So I think that's the most important. It's a when you do this, it is a true family decision. And please don't do this without talking to your support system.
And you just stole my thunder. I'm sitting there thinking, well, I can't wait for Jeff to finish. I can't wait for you to finish, because you have to have a good, solid foundation, a good, solid relationship with your spouse.
Yeah.
And communicate with your spouse, and they have to also understand the same vision.
Yeah, and if it's not a spouse, it's a family. It's it's the same thing for with my wife. I mean, she chose her career. She's a nurse. She works holidays. Like, this is something that we've adapted to as a family, because this is, you do this for the people that you love, and so for me, it's the same thing. Like, yeah, I'm not punching in on Christmas on purpose, but like, we do service a couple of restaurants, and they have, a couple Thanksgivings ago, they needed a modem, and the ISP is closed. We have modems in stock. We were able to call the 1-800 number, get the MAC address, and they were able to get back online on Thanksgiving morning. So these are things like, it's not just a, hey, I'm ready to go off on my own. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, it's no, you got the people, your family, your parents, you got to know that the people in your life are behind you. That's when you're going to be the most successful, is when other people have your back.
Absolutely.
A quick word from the folks who help make this show possible. Are you ready to boost your fiber game? Then check out Go Far Fiber Training School, where you'll learn from the best. Lee Renfro, RCDD, Bixie Tech, and 3-time winner of the Bixie Cable Skills Challenge himself. Whether you're pulling your first strand or prepping for certification, Go Far delivers hands-on, real-world training that gets you job site ready. Don't just go far. Lee will take you all the way. Sign up today and start leveling up your career. Visit GoFar on LinkedIn or click on the link in the description below.
Let's shift the conversation now to things that you wish that you'd known before you started. Again, that aspiring business owner, they don't know what mistakes they're going to make. But now that you guys have been doing your businesses for years now, you kind of know the mistakes that you've made. What's something that you wish somebody would have sat down and told you before you launched the low voltage business, Mr. Pierce?
That it's okay to say no. And by that, I mean, you don't have to take every job that comes in front of you and every bid that crosses your desk. You can turn stuff down and still be successful and still do just fine.
Love that. I absolutely love that. It is okay to say no. It is okay to fire customers. Just saying. Mr. Ryan, how about you?
One thing is put trackers on anything that's expensive.
That sounds like there's some stories behind that.
We've had a couple certifiers walk off job sites because technicians did not keep up with them, and those are 15 to 20 grand a piece depending on when you buy them. Another thing is I've learned the hard way multiple times, and as you say, we're in the communication field. We suck at communication.
Yep.
Communicating to your spouse. There'll be hours upon hours that I do not communicate with my wife because something's gone haywire at a job site. And boy, as soon as I get off that job site, I did it. My wife lets me hear it. So I always communicate with your spouse. If something's going haywire, just say, hey, something's bad. I need to take care of it. I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated. That type of thing. I've learned that the hard way. But those two things will keep your life a little bit easier, I would say.
Just again, as we're sitting here talking, my brain's always thinking, it's like, hey, I need to have the certifier manufacturers come on and talk about what happens when a certifier gets stolen. How, because the certifiers have to be sent back once a year to be recalibrated. If you report it to them, they should have your serial number and just say, hey, this is a stolen certifier. But then again, there's a lot of people don't don't calibrate the certifiers every year.
Yeah, I mean, we had a job that actually I think Pierce helped on or helped facilitate, that was down in Georgia, and a certifier was used, and it hadn't been calibrated since 2014, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they were certifying. I mean, that happened just this year, or maybe
when they tried to tell us that everything was perfect.
Yeah.
And
cables weren't working, etc.
No, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, it's like a vehicle. I think you wouldn't not change the oil in one of your work vans. Like this is.
It's attention. It's attention to detail. If you're not paying attention to how, when the last time your certifier was calibrated, then how's the customer going to be certain that the jacks terminate the exact right way behind their 552 jacks in their building?
Yeah.
Right. It's attention to
I've
detail.
I've had those conversations with we're Team Blue, which is Trend Networks. That's who we use for our certifiers. I've had conversations with their development team. How do we put air Apple tags in here or whatever to track these things at this point? I've gone as far as taking apart myself on 2 of them and putting air tags in them. We put them in the carrying case. We put them in the devices themselves at this point, just because that's $15,000-$20,000 that could easily walk away.
You must get rid of secrets.
Oh, yeah.
I only have 4 listeners, and 3 of them are on the show today. So,
I mean, that's a business move in my respect that I really wanted to make sure we continue to do.
That's great
just
advice.
because if they do walk away, there's no guarantee that someone has to put that thing on the internet so you actually use it, because you can create all the tests on the actual devices themselves.
Exactly.
So you never really have to connect it to the internet. So even if they put IMEI tracker or something on it that as soon as it connected to internet, it would lock it, that won't necessarily help at the end of the day.
Jeff, what was one thing that you wish someone had sat down and told you about before you launched your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think Pierce kind of reminded me of what I wanted to talk about. Certainly, it's okay to say no. Certainly, okay to fire customers. But the one piece of advice I would have is don't get sucked into a customer saying, "Give me a good price on this job. I got tons more work for you." I bit that worm hook, line, and sinker the first 3 or 4. When I really started getting with customers that had multiple sites, multiple locations, multiple jobs, developers who are building things, I'm like, yeah, I want to get laced up with that guy. If that's happened to me 10 times, I could think of maybe 3 times where the customer has been a repeat customer. They just want the best deal they can, exactly. and loyalty means nothing to them. So, that would be the advice. Be very leery of the person who leads with that and says, give me a good deal on this one, and you got the rest of my work forever. It rarely happens.
Yeah, when I used to estimate projects, because you're right, almost every customer call you up and says, "Yeah, can you sharpen your pencil a little better?" My response is always, the price is the price. If you want the price to come down, let's talk about changing something in the design. Maybe instead of doing Cat 6A, maybe go to Cat 6. Or maybe talk about doing a different topology, maybe doing consolidation points, get our average run lengths down. Because the price is the price.
Yeah, and, to handcuff yourself to future jobs before you've even done the first job, that's a two-way street. I mean, you might not want to do work for them. There's always this oh, I can't wait to get more work. But no, I mean, you can say no. I don't want to work for this person anymore. Just 2 weeks ago that happened.
It has to be a mutually beneficial relationship between you and the customer. You both have to get benefits out of it. And it can't be lopsided, because if it's lopsided, that's why it goes through so many low voltage contractors, because they're notorious for how they treat their low voltage contractors. And what happens is everybody wants to go work for them because they got all these gazillion locations. But when they find out how to price the stuff, and then they make you be lower the next year, and then lower the next year, eventually the contractor says, you know what? We're done.
It's not with it.
Yeah.
And that is like the thing that that I just referencing. That was the thing too. Like you get caught up in the like, oh, I'm finally getting calls from like a known, entity in town, and it's like then you peel back the layers of the onion and you realize it's not all it's cracked up to be working for this place. So it's like, yeah, don't get fooled by the the panache of business. That's the one thing that another piece of advice I would have.
Yeah, the dangling carrot, right?
Yeah.
You're right. Customers will always start dangling in front of you. The only time I would even consider the dangling carrot is if I already had an existing relationship with that customer and there was some level of trust already there.
Right.
Like if it was just some Joe Blow first time job, here's the price. Then you want to talk about other jobs, I'll be more than happy to talk about those when those come down the pike. But this price is this price, and there it is. A lot of people don't realize that running your own business, it's not always life on easy street. It's not always streets of gold. It's not always easy decisions. Sometimes you gotta make hard decisions. Sometimes you gotta get up at 2 a.m. as Ryan said and do stuff like that. Let me ask you guys this question. It's a two-part question. Have you ever thought about quitting or questioned why was this the right move? Starting your business, and how did you get past that? Starting with you, Mr. Pierce.
Yes, I thought about quitting straight out of the gate. I mean, I don't think any of us would say no. It's always been perfect and great and wonderful. When I've had challenges or I've had those moments of doubt, if you would, for me, I've slowed down. So slow down, break whatever it is you're looking at into smaller, manageable chunks, if you would, or smaller problems to deal with, and step through those. And almost anything is surmountable if you do it that way. If you look at a big problem, like how the hell am I ever going to pay this, or how am I going to tackle this design job, you'll never get through it that way. You got to break it down into manageable pieces.
That's actually a project management theory right there. It's how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You break the problem down into smaller things and you clear each hurdle. That's perfect. Project management advice 101 right there for you. Mr. Ryan, how about you?
I can't say I've necessarily wanted to quit. There's been days that I wanted to go home and like go to bed and like get a fresh day the next day, because I'll be honest, I can never see myself working for somebody again. It's just not the mentality I like, and it's not, I may put myself through hell, but it's not somebody I don't want to work for someone else and have them dictate my hell. I'd rather be the one that living my hell and dictating my own hell at that point. That's the way I've looked at it. Like I said, I don't think I've necessarily ever wanted to quit, but there's been days that I'm like, okay, let's go home. Let's call it quits for that day, regroup, whatever. But I don't think there's ever been a time that I'm saying, yeah, let's stop and let's
unplug, recharge the batteries, and that's why it's good. And this is one of the things that business owners got to be careful of, is because they get so gung ho getting their business going that they tend to neglect their family life or their other outside stuff. At some point, you have to disconnect to recharge your battery, and that's when you need to have that on. Mr. Jeff, what about you? Have you thought about quitting?
I can't say. When you're self-employed and you feel like quitting, you're quitting on yourself, and that's just not how I would be programmed. So yeah, there's certainly the like Ryan's saying, time to cash them in today, guys. But you've made a conscious decision to enter self-employment, and quitting on this job, you're quitting on the man in the mirror, and yeah, that wouldn't be in my wheelhouse. But yeah, there are days that are harder than others. There are clients that are harder than others, and you're like, you know what, I want to quit this client. I don't want to work for this client anymore. But no, you're self-employed. You can't quit on yourself.
Let's take a short break. Are you trying to reach the technicians, project managers, and decision makers of the ICT industry? Then why aren't you advertising on Let's Talk Cabling? With over 150,000 impressions a month across podcasts, YouTube, and social media, this isn't just a show. It's the go-to resource for the low-voltage industry. We spotlight the tools, training, and technology shaping the future of structured cabling. And your brand could be front and center. Don't just get noticed, get trusted. Email Chuck at advertising@letstalkcabling.com and let's connect your brand to the right audience today.
What's the biggest non-technical skill? Because the people starting a low voltage business, they've got a lot of good technical skills. What's the biggest non-technical skill that a business owner needs to know to be successful in this industry? Pierce?
Listen. And by that, I mean, what we often find with our clients is we'll go in with our idea of what is probably the best solution for what they need. But if you listen to them and ask them the right questions, the non-technical side of it, if you will, you oftentimes learn what they're really after, and you can give them a better solution that fits their problem a lot better. The challenge I've seen is guys who go in and they think it's a one-size-fits-all, or they'll just shoehorn their idea into this to being the solution, and that doesn't always work.
Yep, that's solid advice right there, because you see that even on social media, on the low voltage social media platforms, where somebody will say something and then somebody else will say, well, no, it's got to be this. Well, that's fine for that scenario, but for access control, that's not what you do, right? And again, just don't listen. Jeff, what's one non-technical skill that a business owner needs to have?
But like I said earlier, I'm 49% technician, 51% people person. So I would say that the technical skill, like we've said over and over, communication. But for me, you got to be able to check your ego at the door. You will not grow if you think that you are the smartest person in the room at all times. If you're done learning, you're done here. You should always be learning. And for me, especially in obviously we're members of Technology. We surround ourselves with like-minded people, but you got to be able to ask questions and not worry about what that means about you as a person. You got to have self-confidence. You got to be able to not be afraid to ask the dumb question. I asked a question today. Someone was abbreviating something, and I could not for the life of me figure out what those letters were. Turns out they were making up an abbreviation. It was like they were adding a letter to it that...
We have enough. We don't need to make up new ones.
Yeah. So, for me in that scenario, I was just like, I'm not going to be afraid to ask a question here, because I can't just sit here like a dummy. Like, I'm not contributing to the conversation if we're not speaking the same language. I mean, you're using acronyms that you might as well be speaking Chinese if you're saying something that I don't know what it means. So I'm going to ask what it means, and come to find out he was doing the wrong thing. He was abbreviating something the wrong way. But so I think it's one of those things. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be worried about what the impression will be of you if you ask a question that you might perceive as dumb, because one of two things can happen. Either maybe what today happened, where the person's saying something that isn't real, or you actually learned something, and which is the number one goal anyway. So don't be afraid to ask a question. Check your ego at the door. Be along for the journey.
Last question, and this is an easy one. So right now, I want you to, when you give me the answer, think about the person who's listening to this podcast right now. They're sitting on the fence, thinking about starting their own company. What would you say directly to them? Starting with you, Mr. Pierce.
My responsibility to do it. Trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Ryan?
Spot on. Do it. Don't worry about failure. There's people out there that will support you once you do it. As simple as that.
What about you, Jeff?
My answer would be a little different. I would say make sure you're prepared first before you're ready to take this leap, because there's a lot of people that are counting on your success, and you need to make sure that you feel like you're in a great place for success first. So I would say do it when you're ready, because I'm a walking example of that. I probably could have been like Ryan and done this right from the jump. I had a baseline of skills. I had a great personality. I could have done this out of high school, but I wasn't ready then. My wife was encouraging me to do this for the last 20 years. I wasn't ready to. So do it it's a great move, but you got to be ready. You got to be all in. And then, like everything we've talked about today, listen to us and realize that this is real. Like, those nights and weekends aren't yours anymore. You don't do this if you're not ready to give it your all, because it's going to take all of your all. You don't get to leave at 5 o'clock. There's work to be done after work, and don't do any of this until you're ready to do it.
Gentlemen, I appreciate the knowledge that you just dropped on the people, because like I said, most questions I get outside of technical questions are business related or starting their own business. I appreciate you guys taking the time, being patient, waiting a year to get this thing finally done and stuff. I appreciate you guys coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Chuck. True honor. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Cabling, the award-winning podcast where knowledge is power and the low-voltage industry connects. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your crew. Got questions or ideas for the show? Chuck wants to hear from you. Stay connected, stay informed, and always aim for excellence. Until next time, keep those cables clean, your standards high, and your future bright. Let's talk cabling, empowering the industry one connection at a time.